You know, when you picture the classic corporate ladder, it's a very solid physical thing, right?
Right, yeah.
Like you graduate, you grab that bottom rung, and you just start the long, slow climb up. The expectation has always been that if you just, get your foot in the door, you'll learn the ropes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's the standard narrative of modern employment. You take the low-paying, high grunt work entry-level role, you put in your time, and eventually, through just sheer exposure and effort, you move up.
Yeah. But
Uh,
if you look at the labor market right now, it's like someone snuck in overnight and just took a saw to that ladder.
yeah, they really did.
That first rung is just, well, it's gone. So, welcome to your custom tailored deep dive. Today, our mission is to explore a massive modern paradox.
And it is a massive one.
It really is. We're digging into this fascinating research paper by Jonathan H. Westover, PhD. It's titled The Broken Ladder. And I have to say, the sheer scale of the sources we are looking at today is staggering.
It's not a small sample size, that's for sure.
No, not at all. We are not talking about like a survey of 50 anxious HR managers. We are talking about a hard analysis of 243 million hiring records
Wow.
and 407 million job postings across the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia, spanning from 2017 all the way to 2025.
Which is absolutely necessary.
Yeah,
Because to truly understand the future of work, we have to look past the obvious, the clickbait headlines, and dig into the actual organizational data.
right.
And the data from those millions of records paints a pretty stark picture. Between 2022 and 2025, junior and entry-level hiring just plummeted.
Like off a cliff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are seeing a decline of anywhere from 12 to 26% across
Yeah.
these major economies.
But here is the massive twist that makes this a paradox.
Right.
While entry-level hiring was in a free fall, senior hiring actually went up.
Right.
Yeah, by 5 to 21% during that exact same window. So firms didn't stop hiring, they just stopped hiring beginners.
Oh.
Now, the whole world, every headline you read, every hot take on LinkedIn is pointing the finger squarely at generative AI. Everyone assumes that because ChatGPT and similar tools dropped in late 2022, the algorithms have simply swallowed the entry-level jobs.
Yeah, that's the narrative.
But what if the data proves the entire world is completely wrong? Okay, let's unpack this.
So to solve a mystery like this, you naturally start by interrogating the prime suspect.
Ah.
And artificial intelligence seems incredibly guilty.
Oh, totally.
I mean, if you think about the cognitive and routine analytical tasks that generative AI excels at right now, writing basic reports, summarizing meetings, synthesizing information, drafting boilerplate code.
That is the exact grunt work you usually hand over to a 22-year-old junior hire on their first day.
Exactly.
It makes total intuitive sense that companies would just, buy a $20 a month software license instead of paying a junior analyst a full starting salary.
It does make intuitive sense, which is, it's why the consensus formed so quickly. But what's fascinating here is the massive statistical trap hiding in the data.
Okay, a statistical trap.
Yeah. The researchers uncovered this enormous overlap. They found a correlation coefficient of 0.77 between jobs exposed to AI and jobs exposed to an entirely different post-pandemic shock.
Whoa, hold on. A correlation coefficient of 0.77? In plain English, what does that actually look like for someone just trying to get a job?
Right. It means there is a massive, almost inescapable overlap. The exact same jobs that are highly exposed to AI automation. So think software developers, financial analysts, management consultants.
Right, the knowledge worker.
Exactly. Those are the exact same jobs that shifted to permanent remote or hybrid work arrangements. They are the jobs you can just do from a laptop in your living room.
Ah, I see. And on the flip side, the jobs that are totally safe from AI like construction, electricians, nursing, food service, those are inherently in-person jobs.
Yes, precisely.
You can't wire a house or serve a table through a Zoom call. It's like a crime scene where your two main suspects, AI and remote work, are best friends who literally go everywhere together. How do you possibly isolate who actually pulled the trigger on the entry-level job?
We have to separate them statistically.
Yeah.
So the researchers used a method called difference in differences estimation.
Okay.
Essentially, they looked at how hiring changed over time across different occupations. But they analyzed the AI exposure and the work-from-home exposure jointly.
Wait, difference in differences. For those of us who haven't taken an advanced stats class in a while, how do you mathematically pull those two suspects apart? Are they just looking at parallel timelines?
Yeah, that's actually a great way to picture it. Imagine you have two parallel timelines of occupations.
Yeah.
You find a job that has high remote work but low AI exposure,
Okay, I'm with you.
and you compare its hiring trends to a job that has high AI exposure but low remote work.
Ah,
By tracking the differences in how their hiring patterns changed before and after the 2022 shocks, you can isolate the independent effect of each variable. And the verdict is stunning.
what did they find?
When you account for both factors, the AI effect practically vanishes. It becomes statistically indistinguishable from zero.
Hold on. You're telling me that this massive generative AI boom, which literally everyone is blaming for killing entry-level jobs, has a statistical impact of zero.
Pretty much zero, yeah.
Zero. How is that even mathematically possible when these tools are literally writing code and drafting memos as we speak?
Because the tool isn't replacing the role, it's just changing the workflow of the existing employees. AI didn't do it, but the work-from-home exposure remained a robust, concrete, highly significant predictor of the disappearing junior jobs.
Wow.
AI didn't break the ladder. Remote work did.
That is wild. It completely flips the narrative,
Yeah.
but it immediately brings up a much bigger question.
Which is,
Well, if remote work is the true culprit here, we need to understand why. Why does a distributed work-from-home model specifically kill entry-level jobs while senior hiring goes up?
it comes down to the mechanics of how human beings actually learn at work. There is formal knowledge, which is what you find written in an onboarding manual or a company wiki.
Right, the stuff you can just read.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then there is tacit knowledge. This is the unspoken, unwritten expertise, the intuition that experienced workers carry around in their heads.
Yeah.
Historically, junior workers absorbed tacit knowledge almost entirely through physical proximity.
I always think about that classic scenario of, overhearing a senior colleague navigate a totally disastrous client call from the next cubicle over.
Yes, perfect example.
The manual might tell you how to log a complaint, but it doesn't teach you the exact tone of voice to use to de-escalate a furious client. You only learn that by listening to someone else do it.
Yeah. Or asking a spontaneous 2-minute question while walking to the break room, or simply watching how a veteran manager frames a complex problem on a whiteboard before anyone else has even spoken.
Right.
You don't schedule a 30-minute calendar invite for those moments. They happen in the margins of the workday.
Which remote work just erases.
Exactly. Remote work completely severs this transmission channel. The friction of distance-mediated learning means that organic mentorship just stops happening.
But I have to push back on this. Is that really the whole story? Are companies just taking the easy way out?
What do you mean?
Well, if they're only hiring seniors because training juniors over Slack or Teams is too annoying, won't they just run out of seniors in 5 years? Isn't this just organizations being deeply cynical and creating a massive demographic time bomb for themselves?
You're absolutely right to call it a time bomb, and it is profoundly short-sighted on a macro level. But look at it from the perspective of an individual manager in the short term.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this right now and you manage a remote team, think about the last time you hired a novice. It's about the productivity tax.
The productivity tax.
Yeah. Historically, firms happily accepted that a junior worker would be less productive right now and that the senior workers would lose some of their own productivity to train them.
Sure, it's an investment.
Right. That tax was an investment in the future. But remote supervision has made that tax exorbitantly high. Writing out a perfectly detailed brief for a junior to do a task remotely often takes longer than just doing the task yourself.
Oh, I've definitely felt that.
So managers opt out. They demand seniors who can hit the ground running. And the data bears this out in a huge way. Occupations with just one standard deviation, higher work-from-home exposure, saw their junior hiring shares drop by 1.4 to 1.9 percentage points.
Which, when you stretch that across the entire labor market, represents tens of thousands of lost opportunities for young people trying to get their foot in the door.
And the ripple effects of that loss are devastating. In labor economics, there is a well-documented phenomenon called early career scarring.
Just scarring.
Yes, we usually see it when people graduate during a severe economic recession. If you start your career unemployed or severely underemployed, you miss out on those crucial early years of skill accumulation, and it takes years to catch up.
Or you never do.
Exactly. Sometimes you never do.
But is that really fair to compare this to a recession? During a recession, there's no money, the economy is shrinking. Here, companies are making record profits and actively paying a premium to hire seniors. It feels much more deliberate than a recession.
That's exactly why it's so insidious. The workers entering the market between 2023 and 2025 are facing that exact same persistent earnings penalty and broken career progression as recession-era graduates.
Oh, without the recession.
Right, it has nothing to do with the shrinking economy. It's a structural shift in how work is organized. Through no fault of their own, despite having the exact same degrees and aptitude as the cohorts from 2019, the entry points simply do not exist in the same volume.
And there's a really troubling detail in the sources regarding who actually gets the few entry-level spots that remain.
Yeah, the informal channels.
Exactly. When formal, structured junior roles disappear, the pipeline doesn't just empty out, it gets replaced by informal channels. So who gets hired?
Is whoever has the right network.
Yep. People with elite pedigrees, people with family connections, or people who have the financial backing to take an unpaid internship for 6 months until a full-time remote role miraculously opens up.
This raises an important question about how this impacts broader society. Because at the exact same moment that major corporations are aggressively claiming to value diversity and social mobility,
Right.
this shift to remote work is quietly destroying the most visible, structured entry pathways that actually enable that mobility. It relies on the hidden job market of nepotism and networks, which risks deeply entrenching existing inequalities.
So we have a crisis on our hands. A demographic time bomb, massive inequality, and a broken ladder.
A perfect storm, really.
Yeah, but going back to the old way, forcing everyone into a cubicle 5 days a week isn't going to happen. The data shows that remote work has stabilized at multiples of its pre-2020 baseline.
Yes, it's here to stay.
In 2019, only 2 to 4% of job postings mentioned remote or hybrid options. By 2025, that jumped to 10 to 15% across the board. The genie is out of the bottle. People want the flexibility. So how are the smartest companies fixing this?
Well, if you want the benefits of remote work, and there are many, you can no longer rely on accidental organic learning. What used to happen by accident must now be engineered deliberately.
I like to think of it like this. In the old office, learning was like osmosis. You were a plant passively absorbing sunlight just by sitting in the room.
That's a great way to put it.
But now, in a distributed environment, you're locked in a dark room. Companies need to build a hydroponic system. They have to deliberately engineer a way to pump the exact nutrients those plants need on a precise schedule directly to the roots.
That is a perfect metaphor. The passive absorption is gone, so you need active delivery mechanisms. And the sources provide a very specific hydroponic toolkit that forward-thinking organizations are already using to rebuild the ladder.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's look at transparency first. When standard pathways disappear, anxiety spikes. Accenture tackled this by creating a career marketplace.
But how does a marketplace help a kid sitting alone in their apartment staring at a screen?
Because it removes the guesswork. Accenture explicitly publishes quarter-by-quarter pathways, progression stats, and hiring forecasts.
Oh, wow.
They tell their employees exactly what the structural shifts mean for their promotions, what skills are required for the next level, and how many people typically make that jump. The junior worker isn't left guessing in the dark about whether their remote efforts are even being seen.
Okay, transparency is a great first step, but you also actually have to teach people how to do the job. You can't just hand them a roadmap and say, good luck figuring it out on your own.
Which brings us to the next nutrient pump in your hydroponic system, distributed mentorship. Look at Automatic, the company behind WordPress.
Right. They've been remote forever.
They've been fully distributed since day one. They don't just hope new hires figure it out. They run a highly structured 6 to 8 week remote onboarding program where learning the company's communication style is prioritized over immediate output.
Interesting.
Or look at Shopify. They maintain a default to remote model for day-to-day flexibility, but they utilize quarterly, highly intentional in-person gatherings.
I love the idea of flying everyone out quarterly like Shopify does. But that only solves the big picture relationship stuff. What happens on a random Tuesday at 3 p.m. when a junior analyst is staring at a broken spreadsheet? The code won't compile, and they don't know who to ask because everyone's status bubble is set to red.
That's where tactical daily interventions come in. Some companies are implementing scheduled video co-working sessions.
Co-working over video.
Yeah. A junior and a senior just sit on an open call while they work independently. The mic is open. It artificially recreates the cubicle dynamic, bringing back that ability to sigh loudly, say I'm stuck, and ask a spontaneous question without having to draft a formal message.
That's incredibly smart.
Furthermore, seniors are deliberately recording screen capture video walkthroughs of how they approach a complex task. Instead of answering the same question 5 times for 5 different juniors, you record your screen while you do it once, narrating your thought process.
And now it's a permanent library of tacit knowledge.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. You're capturing the tacit knowledge and turning it into formal knowledge. But what if the whole concept of a traditional entry-level job is what actually needs an update?
We are seeing movement there, too.
Hmm?
Some companies are pivoting toward apprenticeship models. Historically, General Electric was famous for its rotational programs, moving young talent through different departments to build enterprise-wide understanding over a few years.
Right.
Deloitte has adapted this for the modern era. They've created consulting apprenticeships that specifically recruit from non-traditional backgrounds. They use structured, hybrid cohorts.
How does a hybrid cohort work differently than just hiring a bunch of juniors?
It's a parallel entry pathway that treats the first year not as a job where you are expected to immediately produce billable hours, but as an explicit, heavily resourced training period.
No, that makes sense.
You move as a group, you learn as a group, and the productivity tax is baked into the model from day one.
And if you are fully remote, spread across 6 different time zones, you have to completely rethink how work actually gets documented, right? You can't rely on live meetings for everything.
Yes, the shift to asynchronous operating models is crucial. GitLab is the pioneer here. They have thousands of employees and no offices. They built a massive public internal handbook.
Like a giant wiki.
Exactly. Virtually every decision, process, and strategy is written down.
Going back to our hydroponic metaphor, Zapier does something similar with a philosophy they call working out loud, which feels like a very specific nutrient line.
It absolutely is.
Mm-hmm.
Working out loud means that instead of direct, private messages between a manager and a senior dev, project updates, drafts, and problem-solving processes are posted publicly within the company's internal forums.
So anyone can read it.
Right. A junior employee can log on and read the exact messy thought process, the mistakes and the corrections of a senior developer solving a bug. It entirely replaces the need to physically stand over a senior's shoulder and watch them work.
But how do these companies know if any of this is actually working? How do they know they aren't just pouring money into software tools while still facing that demographic time bomb we talked about earlier?
Measurement. You can't manage what you don't measure. Microsoft is highlighted in the research for their granular workforce analytics. They don't just track headcount, they track the pipeline flow.
What kind of metrics are we talking about? How do you measure if a junior is absorbing tacit knowledge?
They look at network connectivity within the organization, who is collaborating with who across different departments. They track time and role and velocity of promotion.
Okay, I see.
If a specific cohort of remote hires isn't advancing to mid-level roles within the expected historical time frame, Microsoft's system flags it as a bottleneck. It alerts management that the onboarding or mentorship in that specific division is failing, allowing them to course correct before it compounds into a massive skill gap years down the line.
Okay, so we have the tools. Transparency marketplaces, structured onboarding, co-working sessions, apprenticeships, asynchronous work, and deep analytics. But implementing all of this requires a fundamental shift in the relationship between the employer and the employee.
It does. The old unwritten psychological contract is dead.
Really dead.
Yeah, organizations used to say, come work for us, we'll pay you a little less, but you'll soak up a lot of knowledge just by being around us, and eventually you'll move up. That implicit understanding does not survive the transition to a distributed workforce. Organizations now need explicit commitments.
Like writing the training mechanism into the actual job description.
Precisely. Guaranteed weekly mentorship hours that cannot be canceled. Specific training budgets allocated per junior employee. Clear, objective competency frameworks. You have to replace vague promises of opportunities for growth with concrete accountability for management.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive talking about AI as the primary suspect, the villain coming to take the entry-level jobs. We proved that it was actually remote work that broke the ladder.
Right.
But as we look at rebuilding it, it sounds like AI might actually be part of the solution.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, smart companies are flipping the narrative entirely. Instead of using AI to replace juniors, they're using what the researchers call augmentation-centered AI.
I'm intrigued. What does that look like in practice for a junior worker?
Imagine an AI tool that doesn't just write a financial report for you, but acts as a real-time tutor. As the junior drafts the report, the AI provides real-time analysis suggestions. But crucially, it includes transparent reasoning.
So it explains itself.
It explains why a certain financial ratio is more relevant. When a junior worker uses that tool, the AI is effectively teaching them analytical frameworks on the job. It makes them more productive, lowering that productivity tax for the manager while simultaneously building the junior's capabilities.
And the sources mention this incredible concept of reverse mentoring. How does that change the dynamic?
Oh, it's a brilliant structural fix. Remote juniors, who are often digital natives and much more comfortable experimenting with these new generative AI tools, are systematically paired with senior leaders.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the junior's job is to teach the senior executive about emerging tech and prompt engineering.
That is fascinating. It completely disrupts the assumption that knowledge only flows downhill. It gives the 23-year-old immediate value to the 50-year-old executive,
Exactly.
which incentivizes the executive to spend time with them, which in turn allows the junior to absorb that senior-level business acumen.
It creates a symbiotic relationship that bridges the physical distance. It restores immense value to the junior role.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's summarize what we've discovered. The death of the entry-level job, this shocking 12 to 26% drop in junior hiring across the globe, is not some dystopian sci-fi story about AI automation.
No, it's not.
The data from hundreds of millions of job records proves that AI is a false culprit. The real issue is a massive organizational design flaw.
Yes, the rapid shift to remote work severed the transmission of tacit knowledge. The friction of trying to train a novice through a screen made the productivity tax of junior workers far too high for frontline managers to bear.
Leading them to hoard senior talent and abandon the entry-level pipeline entirely.
Exactly.
But the latter isn't shattered forever, it just needs to be deliberately rebuilt for a distributed world. What used to happen by accident in the break room must now be engineered deliberately. We need the hydroponic system, structured mentorship, transparent career pathways, asynchronous knowledge sharing, and explicit commitments to training.
Because if organizations fail to make those deliberate investments now, they will simply holler out their own future. You cannot have a senior leadership team in 10 years if you don't hire any juniors today.
Which leaves me with a final, slightly wild thought to leave you with. If you are listening to this, think about this. If human seniors are finding it increasingly tedious and time-consuming to mentor juniors through a screen, and artificial intelligence is getting infinitely better at explaining complex concepts, adapting to learning styles, and doing it all with infinite patience, will the entry-level worker of 2030 actually be mentored by an AI boss? Will the very technology we initially thought was stealing the junior job end up being the only thing willing to teach them?
It's a fascinating possibility to consider and a perfect reminder that the future of work is never as simple as the initial headlines suggest. Thank you for diving deep into the data with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the consensus, keep looking past the obvious, and we will catch you next time.